Everdark, Episode 84, Compelled Learning.
Where are you going?
Christian caught Balthazar's arm as the vampire lord got up from the gothic four-poster bed in the spire. He wasn't staying in this musty room alone. Balthazar had insisted that they rest after finding him in the mirror room, the room that Seer had told him to check out. And what did that mean? He was certain that she didn't have any ill intent towards him. No. She wanted him to see David and his relationship for what it was, manipulation and predation.
And he still sees me as his victim, even though I'm a vampire.
Christian couldn't rest. Wouldn't rest, really, because the very thought of being in any sort of vulnerable state was abhorrent to him at that moment. But he had come to this garish room to calm his master. Now Balthazar was leaving him here? He didn't think so. Balthazar put a hand on top of Christian's, and that smooth as silk tone entered his voice, which meant he was using the power of the Eiros on Christian. I will be right back. I just need to.
Talk to Caemorn?
Balthazar blinked. He is the most knowledgeable about your gift, so I'm just going to pop down to the cells again and speak to him.
You mean compel him to tell you everything about being a speaker to the dead?
Christian's eyebrows rose this time. Balthazar pursed his lips. When you say it that way, it sounds absurd. But it isn't. It wouldn't be like having him tell me everything. I would gain the knowledge and pass it on to you.
No, I don't want that.
Balthazar blinked again. Why not?
Because there are nuances, Balthazar. You know there are. There must be about something like this. Something so primal about life and death, and I just don't think you could learn everything perfectly enough to teach me.
Christian admitted. But there was something else about his distaste for this. He wasn't sure how to explain it. I wouldn't be killing Caemorn to get it. That's the joy of the Eiros gift. He would be perfectly fine, even after I drained him of every single bit of knowledge he has on the subject. Or on any subject. Balthazar grumbled.
I know, but...
Christian, it won't take but a moment. I'll go down and...
No, you're not being strategic about this.
Christian told him firmly.
You're worried about me. There's no need.
But wasn't there? He felt the gem in his pocket practically burning a hole there, as if he could feel David's twisted desire for him reaching out physically. Despite his words to Balthazar, he was anxious to know what the Cali vampire knew about getting David through the door.
Why couldn't I make him leave? I could almost do it, like the words were on the tip of my tongue.
Of course, he should have remembered that mind reading and mind control were quite intertwined. His mind was as open to his master's as were the books in this room. Balthazar patted his hand again, knowing Christian wanted answers now as much as he claimed otherwise. I'll just take a little dip into Caemorn's mind and have the answer for us, Balthazar said with a too bright smile.
No, you won't. We're not doing that.
Christian tugged him back down onto the bed. Why not? Christian, we need this information. I can see how having David here is weighing on you.
Maybe it should. Maybe he should.
I thought you learned that you are not to blame for all that happened with him. Balthazar stroked a hand over his arm.
No, I know, but maybe I haven't learned enough.
Christian shook his head. He didn't know. He wanted David gone, but he felt raw with the new knowledge about himself and the man he thought he'd loved. But instead, he'd just been manipulated. He didn't want any more manipulation in his life. Maybe that was why he didn't even want Caemorn put in that situation. You've learned plenty. Balthazar's hands tightened and his jaw clenched. So what does this have to do with that damned Cali vampire downstairs?
Because he has to teach me, and that can't be compelled. Teaching is different.
Christian struggled to find the right words here. Oh, teaching can be compelled. Anything can. Balthazar chuckled mirthlessly. I could make Caemorn into a stunning, charming fellow. Under my compulsion, he'll recite poetry. Balthazar frowned. On second thought, I hate poetry, so we won't have him do that. But there are many amusing things he can be made to do. For instance...
No.
Christian let out a burst of air through his teeth. Why, for God's sake, not? Balthazar flapped his hands by his sides. Christian opened and closed his mouth. He didn't quite know what he thought. He just felt that this was not what he wanted, that he didn't want anyone helping him without truly desiring to do it. Balthazar cupped his face. Christian, I can thoroughly assure you that Caemorn does not deserve any of your sympathy. He gestured a hand around the garish, Gothic room. There was so much crimson velvet that Christian didn't know if he felt like he was in a boudoir or a poorly staged vampire play. He should be staked through the heart for this room alone. Christian snorted. He couldn't help it. He tried not to laugh at all of Balthazar's jokes. His head was too big already, but his master was funny.
You're trying to make me laugh. I appreciate that,
Christian said. Yes, I am. You need laughter, lots of it. You haven't had enough, Balthazar told him. So, I will do my best to amuse you, always. Christian smiled. He couldn't help it, but he still shook his head.
I don't want you to compel him.
What? Why? Again, this is likely misplaced sympathy.
Read my mind,
Christian commanded.
I can't find the words, but you will. You'll understand the truth of what I feel.
The smile left Balthazar's face as his silver eyes glowed as he accessed Christian's mind and found the answers he couldn't articulate. You're not being like David. I'm not being like David either. Compelling Caemorn to help you is not what David did to you.
I know.
Christian scrubbed his face with his hands.
I know, but I don't want someone helping me who doesn't wish to. Teaching is intimate. Passing on knowledge is something that is, well, it shouldn't be ripped out of someone.
Oh, I think ripping a few things out of Caemorn would be a good idea, Balthazar muttered, but then shook his head. You realize that everything he's done so far, including his offer to bring back Julian's parents, is all because his wormy little heart wants to survive, right? That's all. So he's not going to be intimate with you in sharing his knowledge. It's all transactional to him. Balthazar let out a bitter laugh. I cannot believe I said intimate with any thought involving you and Caemorn. Shudder.
He's actually quite handsome,
Christian pointed out. Balthazar's head shot around. For shame, Christian. I thought you had taste. Christian laughed fully this time.
Yeah, well, he is in an objective way. You can admit it.
So you want me to compel him to have a threesome with us? Balthazar waggled his eyebrows, but then he made a face as if he was eating a lemon and burst out, Oh, God, not even I can pretend that's sexy. Christian, who had been rather alarmed that Balthazar was being serious for a moment, smiled easily.
Quite outside of having sex with him, I want him willing to teach me. Preferably, I'd want him to want to teach me.
Oh, he probably would be, because of your gift as speaker to the dead. Balthazar laced their fingers together. That would give him status But right now, he's trying to leverage it far more than that, because he's rather in a hole.
You don't want to owe him anything.
Christian intuited. I would enter into almost any contract, however disadvantageous, to help you. But to be beholden to that particular individual, Balthazar rolled his lips together, is most unwise.
He's your nemesis.
Christian hid the smile that wanted to alight on his face. He knew it wasn't funny. He felt that it was quite serious. Caemorn was the one that exiled Balthazar after his master had done the right thing in granting Roan his second death. He is. I used to think of him as if he were my mirror image. You know, where I am charming, he is hated by all. Where I am handsome, he is—
Handsome? More handsome? Beautiful?
Christian offered, his lips twitching. No, you see, a mirror image does not mean the same— Right, that came out wrong. What I mean is more like yin and yang, Balthazar continued.
No, I think a mirror works just fine.
Christian was sensing something in his master's mind that was bothering Balthazar.
You fear you're alike.
No. Balthazar rose up and began to pace. We are nothing alike. That he is more pathetic than I thought was a surprise. And having a bastard of a master like Callie who never loved him, never even seemed to want him, but—
You're comparing him and Callie to you and Roan. You see how he twisted one way because of that lack of love and care, and you went another.
Christian got up and put his hands on Balthazar's shoulders, stopping the pacing.
You see yourself in him.
I am not like him. Balthazar set his jaw.
No, you aren't, but you feel some sympathy for him, and you didn't expect that.
Christian intuited. A lock of Balthazar's blonde hair fell across his forehead. Christian carded it back. He felt such tenderness towards this complicated man. Caemorn is beyond redemption, Balthazar said with a tight shrug. And that could have been me. If not for Asius, it would have been me.
No, you're stronger than that.
Christian shook his head.
You have kept yourself in check all these years, even though you were exiled, Balthazar. There was nothing keeping you from acting on your impulses except for you. You didn't do as Roan said. You stopped him. Caemorn just kept on helping Callie spread the lies with the Order. He killed Julian's parents, and he only kept them around just in case he needed them. You created a home for all the vampires that came with you. You put rules in place. You don't allow such abuse. And you're strong and brave and...
Balthazar kissed him. And you're making me blush. His master's cat-like grin was all he could see as Balthazar pressed their foreheads together.
And you are ridiculous and...
Another kiss. You taste of mint. I love that, Balthazar said, grinning wider.
I have some gum on me at all times. Blood breath is disgusting.
Christian made a mow of distaste. This had Balthazar throwing his head back and laughing. A vampire who doesn't like blood.
I do like the taste of blood. Your blood is quite...
Christian's gaze fixed on one of the veins pulsing in Balthazar's throat.
Nice.
Of course, his master noticed this and undid the top button of his shirt. Christian's eyes narrowed. The cat-like grin was now wolfish. He started making noises like that stripping song and undid another button to reveal that utterly perfect skin and chest, and heat bloomed between Christian's thighs.
We don't have time for that.
Christian crossed his arms over his chest. Balthazar's eyebrows rose. Da-da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da. We have nothing but time. Until Damon is ready to storm the castle, there's not much to do.
Aren't you supposed to go through all the former vampires and determine who's...
Naughty and nice. Yes, well, I am doing that. Balthazar touched his temple. Christian's eyebrows rose.
I should learn not to be surprised by your abilities, but this seems pretty big. Is it big for you?
Balthazar preened. I don't know what's happening to me. I mean, I know. I'm becoming myself, I suppose. His master rubbed his hands together eagerly. If I can imagine it, it's like I can do it. Every moment I feel stronger. The minds of all the Iros are like sparks of light in the darkness, stars in the sky. I'm able to siphon their power as my own.
A hive mind.
Christian breathed. Yes, exactly. But do not worry. I'm not going to use you all as batteries or something like that. I mean, not without your consent. Balthazar quickly amended. Christian nodded.
Of course.
Yes, of course. All right, I might just do a little, take a little bit of their power without their consent when it's absolutely necessary, because there are emergent circumstances that might
require you to harness all the power of the Iros?
Let's hope not. A flash of a smile.
Yes, let's hope.
Christian's gaze dropped down to that V of skin revealed at the base of Balthazar's throat. He swallowed and tried to stop the hunger bubbling inside of him. Balthazar tipped his chin up. Why are you denying your hunger? Didn't I say we have all the time in the world? I mean, we literally could have that. Damon doesn't work quickly. Balthazar frowned. One wonders what quick is for an immortal like him.
I wonder if he has any sense of time at all, really. Though he seems rather contemporary in many ways.
Christian agreed, swallowing down more saliva as he caught a whiff of his master's scent. Yes, I am amazed by that. I wonder if it is because of Julian, and the rest of us, of course.
What do you mean?
Christian had slid a toe nearer his master. Well, I can sense people's minds all around me, rather like bees. I think sometimes I can almost absorb the information I'm hearing in the back of my head. Balthazar was clearly pretending not to notice Christian drawing nearer. He was holding himself much too still to be normal, but Christian couldn't help edging closer yet.
So, you think maybe it's that way with Damon?
Another inch. The tips of their toes would be touching in the next slide. Oh, I'm sure it's even better for him. Balthazar agreed. Christian sniffed the air and found himself focusing on that vein. Then he blinked and pulled back. Balthazar frowned. What's wrong, Christian?
You haven't fed enough. You're hungry.
Christian answered, tightening his arms around his chest again. Oh, well, I can do that after you.
No, I can wait.
Christian, we did talk about the dangers of waiting for one so young as you, Balthazar said almost sternly, which meant that he was concerned. Christian licked his lips. His stomach gurgled. Balthazar held up a hand and gestured with his fingers for Christian to come. Now you know that I would never compel you, but I must insist on you not starving yourself.
Bring one of the former vampires here and feed on them first,
Christian suggested.
One of the naughty ones, obviously.
Balthazar's eyebrows lifted. You want to watch me feed? Christian nodded. Rather like a marionette.
I want to learn. I know it'll be some time before I hunt, but I want to see you do it. It makes me feel like we're sharing something.
You really are serious about the intimacy of teaching and learning, aren't you? Balthazar looked so fondly at him.
I am.
Christian straightened.
I want to be useful.
You are, but you're young and—
I don't want to feel vulnerable,
Christian said. And when he swallowed this time, it wasn't out of desire, but of a keen awareness of David's soul in his pocket. With Damon around, I don't think we need to worry, Balthazar said. He let out a laugh. Truly, he could have come here alone. Well, except for Fiona, and simply done it all himself. We were never in any danger. His expression became thoughtful. That's part of what he didn't want Julian to see, I think. Christian considered this.
Do you think he worried Julian would see how very inhuman he is?
With a bob of his head, Balthazar said, It was impressive, but they underestimated him. They won't again. People will go against him more quickly.
Do you think that'll really matter?
We've seen him get injured. I mean, that first time we met.
He was tired. Injured sounds more serious than it was.
Yet you are still worried about being weak, Balthazar pointed out.
He can't be everywhere. He can't do everything for us. We need to support him and take care of ourselves.
Christian told him, I am here to take care of you. Balthazar reminded him gently with just a little touch of jealousy.
I know. I need to feel in control,
he admitted. Balthazar nodded. You've come so far to say that, Christian.
Julian knows that about me. Now you do too. I can admit things to you. I trust you.
The last was practically ripped from his lips, but it was easier to say than before. Balthazar's expression softened. Thank you for trusting me, Christian.
You act like it's a rare thing for me.
It is. We both know it is. Christian colored. He lowered his head, unable to quite look at Balthazar. He knew he could be open with this man that was as vulnerable and likely far more ill-used than he had ever been. And thankfully, his master changed the subject. You really want to watch me feed? The next section of the podcast has been abridged. Join us next time for episode 85, Something New.
If you want to support this podcast and get the unedited episodes, we actually have something better than a Patreon. I have my own serial subscription website, wraithrain.com. It's an old-fashioned paywall site, just like Netflix or Crunchyroll. With a membership, you do get the uncut versions of Everdark with no intros, outros, or edited parts. Just the chapters as they were meant to be heard before we've had to make it all Disney safe. If this sounds interesting to you, try us out for a month. The link to sign up is in the notes. The most you'll pay is $9.95 a month, and you'll be directly supporting us, real people, not big corporations like Amazon or Netflix, not content created with AI. Wraith Rain is a small team of actual humans doing the best we can to transport you with romantic action and adventure stories. We really thank you for your support.